Hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Lena.
Good afternoon, Ben.
Thank you for being with us. I wanted to thank EFMD and Academy by Rima1 for organizing this series of webinars. So today we have the pleasure of having Lena. Lena, I will let introduce yourself better than I would ever do.
Yeah. First, Ben, thank you for inviting us for this webinar. My name is Lena Candries. I am, since 2016, I work for the Faculty of Business and Economics of the University of Antwerp, and where I am happily involved in international relations and development. Our university is ASCSB accredited, is EPAS accredited, and is in the process for EQUIS. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
What I first want to do is just to give a little bit of history of the university and the faculty, because we are.
Lena, will you let just if I may interrupt you, I'm just setting the scene for the participants if they have not been to one of the previous webinars. What we highly encourage you with, Lena, is to ask us questions. So there is a Q&A, there is a chat. So please feel free to use it and ask us questions, and I'll pass them on to Lena. The setting of those webinars is really to hear an institution, so here Antwerpen University, and how they're doing it. So really using the best practice of one school, and here we're looking at internationalization. Thank you, Lena. Sorry to have interrupted you.
No problem. So I first want to sketch a little bit the university and the faculty. So the history of the university goes back to 1852. That is also the origin of the Faculty of Business and Economics. In 2003, 3 universities in Antwerp were brought together. And the name is University of Antwerp. So now we are the University of Antwerp, what means we are an old but a young university. So the University of Antwerp is internationally oriented and research-based. So, and then the question is, what is internationalization for us? So for us, when we look at our university, internationalization is when we proactively work in developing and sustaining international networks and strategy to make a contribution that will be recognized on an international scale. So if we go then into the processes, we first look at why. We look, in fact, at our mission. When we look at the mission of the Faculty of Business and Economics, we have a mission that says to better prepare our students and junior researchers for their future role, and that will be very likely in a global workplace. Also to enhance our position on the international market with respect to high quality research and high quality teaching. And also to develop our students and staff into global citizens who embrace cultural differences. So how do we do that at the Faculty of Business and Economics? And then I like to go back to 2016, 2017. At that moment, the faculty appointed for the first time an Associate Dean Internationalization to really put internationalization on the map. It was already on the map, but to make it very clear, not only internally, but also externally. So, and the aim was to make it clear the 5 major components, to bring them all together, because before that it were like, let's say, more silos. So incorporating with each other, the Associate Dean brought the 5 let's say, basic internationalization components together, and that were student exchange, the summer schools, the English programs, non-degree programs, and all those, let's say, pillars, they all also sustain internationalization at home. So he streamlined the internationalization process, and at the same time the Commission of International Relations was restructured. So for all those components that I just mentioned, there are people who are owners. And those owners, we all talk to each other. So, and what that also brings is that for CIR, for the Commission of International Relations, it was then, we put processes together to further internationalize. And what I really like to do now is to, because internationalization, of course, it's big. So, but I like, because we only have an hour and even not that much for this topic, because there will be other questions and other things we want to talk about. But what did we do at the Faculty of Business and Economics when we looked at internationalization? We really saw that because we are an old but young university, we saw that we had lots of partners. And in becoming really international and being able to not only do student exchange, but to do much more together with our partners, we started looking at our international partner portfolio. And by looking at that portfolio, we have, because we are old and new, we have, of course, old partners. What we did, we made a process, we made what we call a quick scan. We looked at our partners like, what is the mission of those partners? Are there accreditations? Which accreditations? Are there rankings? And then we think about the QS ranking, the Times Higher ranking, the Shanghai ranking, other rankings. And how about the networks? Because our university, like all universities, have also networks they belong to, consortia they belong to. And with what universities are our faculty working with, collaborating with? So we started mapping first for our partners to see where are we, and they compared to us compared to them. So, and then based on that, we started to write out a process. We started to develop criteria for the future. They can change, but for the needs that we have now. So we clearly look at the mission statement, at the accreditations, at the rankings, and then also geography. Where do we have partners, and where don't we have partners? And then we will look and start mapping. So, and the mapping is what we call like with a quick scan. So a quick overview from where they are. And then with putting our criteria together for new partners, because we had already many, and with the many partners we had, most of them we concentrated on student exchange. But here, now we can go further. That means we really want to go more deeply into student mobility, meaning joint programs, double degrees, summer programs, non-degree programs, really develop it further, elaborate on it, collaborate also, try to find partners where we can grow together in these domains. So that also means that when we go, we use that. So when we go to a conference, for instance, we prepare very carefully when we go to a conference, because we have those criteria that we set together for us now for the near future. And again, I said before, it can change, but we go to conferences and map and see geographically where do we want to have more partners with who we can work together on a very broad scale. What for us is also very important is to work for dual and joint PhDs, also for faculty exchange, for the joint research. And also with the program that you deliver. So we can also, we use that to really look where our faculty is involved in. And then we also put that on the map to see if we can work as the faculty with those different partners. Then what we do is that, for instance, for the exchange, we will really see with exchange, before it was only exchange, now we will talk, okay, we have exchange, what can we do more? We know now from the beginning with new partners what their interests are. So we can really further jointly develop programs, but also ideas. What for us is also very important is for our students, and it was also in our mission, to prepare them. Not only for our students, but everything what we do also at the faculty, like when we get exchange students, we automatically will have the internationalization at home. So our students are exposed. So what's for us also important is our students that go outside, they can go outside for exchange, but they can also go outside with the summer schools. Another example of internationalization at home that we are fostering very carefully is a program that we developed 7 years ago, and it's called I-Week, International Week on Sustainability. And what we do there, it's mandatory for our students of the third bachelor business degree, and we open that up for partners. So they can send their students for 1 week, because it's a 1 week, also ECTS, it's a 1 week program, and partners can send professors who can collaborate in that program, but also students that can come to that program. They can work together. It's a very interactive international week. It's in fact unique. It's an international conference for bachelor students. And what we see there, it's really internationalization at home. So what we try to do is really try to develop and also reach out to partners to be involved in what we do.
Lena, if I may interrupt you, because there's a lot of questions that are coming, so I'll just ask one or two before letting you continue. There is a question from Renata saying, when looking at partners and mapping criteria, did this identify partners that did not fit with your mission, since you're old and young university? And did that mean that you cease a partnership with many of those other institutions? And if I may add to Renata's question, is how do you define the right number of partners? Like, do you always say yes, or do you have a limited amount, or you have a limited amount per country? So how does that work?
Yeah. So it's like a selection process. So when a request comes in from a new partner, we do, let's say, the quick scan. We look at what that partner has to offer. Look for sure at the mission, and then see, can we work with this partner at this moment? In this period, we will bring that forward to the Commission of International Relations. We make a motivation, and then there are different people who can vote to see if we go ahead with that partner, yes or no. And it can be that for this moment, for instance, because take now an example, take Belgium as an example. We have already 2 partners in Belgium. We don't need a third one. Or it can be that there is serious collaboration with faculty, or that there is, let's say, from the university out, that there is really a network, a consortium agreement with that university. Yes, then we will consider. But we really want not to have too many partners, because when you do like student exchange, you want to be able to are in balance. It's all about balance there. So if you have too many, so we must be able to balance it out every year. And also, like, and we know that from our students, if students are interested to go in particular areas and go not to particular areas, we really take that all into account. It's the geographical aspect that we also take into account. But do we always say yes? No. And it can be that sometimes we say not for the time being, but later. because when we have already enough partners in a particular area, then we hold it off. And then we have to make a decision internally of what we are going to do. And then we put it on hold. So we have a good system that we really can put it on hold. So we also use, like, we developed, with all of this, we developed a scorecard. So that we know, like, we have partners and their scores are in there. So, and we keep it and we look at that to really evaluate the next partners within that area to come in, yes or no. Is that an okay
and
answer?
do you re-evaluate your partner? Because like you're talking about this scorecard. So do you every 5 years say, look, we're going to re-evaluate, making sure that they're still fit to be our partner? Or how does that work?
Yes, and that's again, like what I mentioned before, we go through all the aspects of the mission statement, the accreditations, the network, the rankings, geography, and then the impact on the collaboration. And then we see with what partners, because you can have partners, we have partners that we have for 40 years. Some of them are no longer active. So, okay, so that's then easier. And others, we have to then reevaluate how we, what we do with the partners. But for future partners, only student exchange is not enough. We really want to go to the full spectrum of student mobility, PhD mobility, and faculty mobility.
Thank you. That's really interesting. So already we have a good vision of what is international and how you treat international at University of Antwerp. We're talking with, we are here in partnership with EFMD. So how does international link to your accreditation process? And everybody know that international is a key area of EQUIS. So how do you embed international and accreditation together?
Yeah, so in fact, because we started in 2016-17 with, let's say, the next chapter in internationalization. And then we carefully looked, like, also at ASCSB, at EFMD, and now we look at EQUIS. So to see what are the, where does internationalization, like for instance at the ASCSB, in what standards is internationalization like key? And then you think like standard number 1, the mission statement, standard number 9, the general skills area, and then for ACSB, like engagement, innovation, and impact. So for EFMD, internationalization is more deeply anchored in everything what you do, and that is what we are also now trying hard to do at the faculty. And so to not be superficial, but really work very deeply and trying to really involve the collaboration with partners in that whole process.
Thank you. So a few questions, and we already had a question on that last week when Julie was talking about strategy and international was just talked a little bit about, was how does COVID is going to change your vision of internationalization? And I promise we will not speak too much of COVID, because you told me, look, I don't want it to be a COVID internationalization session. So, but just a quick question on how do you think it's going to impact? And also because you're working on EQUIS, how does this crisis is going to affect the vision of internationalization, which is really transversal in your EQUIS report?
Yeah. So I wouldn't say that it will change the vision, because the thing with what's happening now, we are in a crisis that's unprecedented. So we don't have a glass ball and say what can happen. So as you know, many things are now on hold, are cancelled. So, but we keep the momentum going. So what we also discover with having, let's say, put a lot of energy into our partner relations, because what we want to do is we want to have contact with each partner at least once every 2 years. How do we do that? We also have to look at our, let's say, ecological footprint. So we really exploit then the ACSB accreditation conferences, the EFMD accreditation conferences, and everything that's surrounded there, and also the other conferences like EIE, like APAI, and like NAFSA. So what we do there, we visit, we have meetings with our partners and discuss developments with the partners, see where we are, what we can do together and how things are going. And there we have then the contact to meet, to build trust with our partner, but also to build trust with new partners, to really engage further into internationalization. But there is a change. So, yeah, you wanted to ask a question?
No, there is a question which is really specific. So it's from Julia, who's saying, in regards to the International Week, could you please give more information on how you recruit international professors through Erasmus Mobility Program?
Yes, so the International Mobility Erasmus Program, so that comes up, I believe, once, twice a year, that you can request participation in that. So we participate in that. We have incoming and outgoing professors for the Erasmus faculty. Yes. So, and
okay, thank you. No, I don't know anything about it, so I cannot tell you more. But so to go back to...
You also asked about the I-Week. Huh? So the I-Week, how we do it there, is for the I-Week, there we are looking for professors who can collaborate, professors who are specialized in sustainability, to collaborate in the International Week of Sustainability. And there it can be online, but it can also be when the professor comes to the university during that week. So we can certainly, we are looking into that. Our first meeting for the I-Week for 2021 is on June 2nd. So we are preparing and seeing how we will do it for next year. But there we reach out to professors of our partner institutions. And if they can bring students for that I-Week, that's of course then, if I can use then the terminology closing the loop, so then we really have then the whole picture there, so of working together with partner universities.
You mentioned of this usage of international conference of EFMD on other to be able to interact with your partner schools. At the moment with travel ban, not knowing when we will be able to travel again, have you already thought about how you're going to engage with your partners?
Yeah, so like I give the example of the EIE, which was just cancelled not yet a month ago. So at you have, when you subscribe for a conference, so you have, as a participant, you get automatically the list of all the participants. So, and that is how we map, and that is what we have done. And yeah, let's say the conference didn't happen, but the mapping was done. So we start, and we have been contacting future partners that would have been at that conference, and then start already now a dialogue for possible cooperation based on the criteria, the selection criteria that I mentioned before. So that is already completely mapped, and that is now in the process. Of course, it's not live, but still, you know, Zoom, Skype, whatever other possibility, and we use those platforms extensively. But it's not because those things were cancelled that we are unemployed. No, it's just, it's now a little bit harder, because when you go to a conference, when you do your homework, then it's easy, because it's all there at your fingertips. So now you have to really set up different meetings in different platforms. And then of course the time zones are then also different than when you are at the conference, because everybody is there at the same time. So, and the same is true for like now also for ICAM. So we have like the participant list, and we are working on that participant list. So no, we did not, let's say we did not stop. So it goes on, the momentum goes on, but it's it's different.
There is a question from John, who is asking about the size of your team for internationalization. You mentioned that when you started building your team, you brought different sections together of things that already existed. How big is your team for international, and what are their different areas of expertise?
Yeah, so the team is let's say we have the responsible, that's our vice dean for CIR, for the Commission of International Relations. And then we have 5 people directly involved in that commission, 5 people from administration. So, and if you ask who are that are people like a person who is responsible for student mobility, student exchange, then a person who is responsible for the English programs, a person who is responsible for the IWeek, a person responsible for the summer schools, and then a person responsible for the non-degrees. Those people do also other things, but they are the direct, let's say, spills to direct people to the internationalization. And then, of course, you have the faculty involved. Like when we talk about the English programs, we have the faculty responsible for the different faculty for the English programs. Also, the IWeek is a program of a faculty member. So those people are then all also involved. But let's say the core administration is 5, and then there are of course also people who do purely administration. But when you are looking for the real international number, it's 5 key people involved. Yes.
Thank you. Question from Joanne, which is actually linked to a question that I wanted to ask you a bit later, but I'll use it. Many schools expect international students' travel to be seriously curtailed. So are there plans to find other innovative way to provide students with some form of international experience?
Yeah. So at this point, we don't know what's going to happen if students can come to campus or not. But what we are actually preparing, so people are working very hard on, let's say, the 2 possibilities. The possibility on campus, but also the possibility that they will be off campus. And then off campus, of course, it will be then digitally related. So it will be then online. And then we have to run that in parallel. We are looking at those possibilities as we speak. So if I just may also give an example of what we have done. So I know that this question that just came in, it's for like the future. So, but we learn for the future what we just did in the past. So I give now an example of the non-degree programs. With the non-degree programs, we facilitate programs for partner universities that send a cohort of students to our university for like a module of a module with a couple of courses in it, and students can take that then at the University of Antwerp. We have like a nice example of what we have just done, a group of 23 students from an American university that came in January, and then that program normally did run until last week, but it was cut short, and those students had to go back on March 13th. So that means it was right in the middle of that program. So we did not deliver everything yet. So, and we wanted to keep, and those students went back to the United States, not back to their campus because they were quarantined. So they were spread all over the United States. So what we have done there, we really kept us to the agenda. So the agenda of that program. And we were able to really deliver all the courses, all the sessions, we still had to deliver on time. And we did that online. And we used our Blackboard platform for our students, Blackboard Collaborate, to really give the sessions that they still needed to get. And those sessions were giving on live stream and interactively. So we still had to give like 5 different courses, different sessions. So, and 3 courses, professors of 3 courses opted to do it live stream, interactively, and 2 other professors opted for other systems like slide with voiceover. So, and then another professor used an recorded stream, and then with YouTube material. But we were able to deliver that all on time to the students. And what we have seen also is how in what a very short time frame we can really do things. So at our university, at the faculty, we have all, let's say, materials and knowledge in place to do online coursework. So, but not everybody was using it. So now suddenly, so overnight, we adapt, we adopt, and we do. And what we also have seen, like with the students, because like a student has to then operate from home. So how they also adapt to this and how they really were positively responsive to what happened. So because there was no way around. So, and we did not really have a pressure from the partner in the United States, because they said you do what you can. So, and we were really able to explore, to really think critically, think out of the box, like, okay, how are we gonna do this? And so then also take into account the time difference. And then not only with the courses, but we also, of course, it's an official program, and it's a non-degree program, but it's an official program from a partner university. We also had to organize exams. So here we had an ideal, let's say, possibility to exploit what we can do. And we had a fabulous collaboration of our own ICT department, who helped us in setting up online Blackboard collaborative exams. And we had 5 different exams, like we had multiple choice, open questions, case questions, very different types, against time, not against time, scrambled, not scrambled, being able to go back in the questions or not. So we really tried everything. We really used it as, let's say, a pilot case. And so we really hope now that the university itself can use, because everything was recorded, that they can use that material to see for the future, what is going to happen. Because we were now able, with that non-degree program that doesn't run in our, let's say, standard time frame of the of our programs of the university, we were ahead of time with that, compared to in the future. In the near future, our students need to also pass exams, and we have many international students that went back home. So, and there we need, for the normal programs of the faculty, we need to find a solution of how will those people take exams. So, and we hope that what we have done for the non-degree programs can be used as an example for the degree programs at our university.
Thank you. Question from Amia, which is, what are the key leadership / organizational challenges with internationalization? Hence, is internationalization a local initiative in the business school, or is there strong support from the main university?
I will start with the latter. So it's a strong support of the university. When we started out, when I started out, I said that the University of Antwerp was internationally oriented and research based. And it for sure is. And it is certainly not local. And it's also not only faculty driven. Of course, every faculty can translate internationalization the way they feel fit, and also following their mission. The Faculty of Business and Economics is, compared to maybe other faculties, much more advanced. And that is because there is a need for it. It's also like it's in the DNA of Faculty of Business and Economics. It is really international. So, but to go back to the university, at university level, of course, there are, let's say, there is a commission in internationalization. There is an International Plus Commission. And I happen to be in those commissions, and there what we see is that we really talk about internationalization from the point of the university. And then what they ask is, they ask faculties to really bring in ideas to really work together with other faculties to give input of how best practices of internationalization to really, for the university also, to move forward in the international orientation.
Thank you, Lena. So to go back to the question that we had a few minutes ago on the EQUIS process for internationalization, and we have a question from Michael, who is saying, in addition to their partnership strategy, how is the school preparing for all the internationalization criteria necessary for EQUIS accreditation? And I think here, Michael, is related to the EFMD Quality Service Guidelines and Position paper, where you have this radar chart of internationalization with the notion of policy, content, context, network. So how do you address this different dimension, maybe briefly?
Yeah, so we have a policy written out for the faculty for internationalization. So, and that policy is not, goes through for all the aspects, for all the, also the aspects of internationalization in its totality. So, but I want to come back to that question of what the person has. Is there a particular, because it's very wide, is there a particular question more specifically that he has?
I think what Michael is looking at is that there is different dimension of internationalization, and you spoke mainly about the partnership aspect of internationalization. So if you could maybe elaborate a bit more on the other criteria of internationalization that exists, and for example, we could talk about you talk about research development, student exchange, but what about alliances with company? So all of those notions outside of just partnership strategy.
So the alliances with companies. So we of course have a lot of alliances with companies for our local students. Now for international students, that is still a work in progress, because when we look like also at university for international students, what we really want to do for our students, we want to expose them to international, let's say, projects and working together with companies. For our students, that's not immediately, that's not a problem at all. What we have seen is, and because of the language barrier, our education in the part we are in Belgium is Dutch education. So that means if we want to use, let's say, consulting projects or business projects for our international students, the language is definitely a barrier. And we are seriously working on that. We are actually, what we have developed very recently is, because we know that the companies in Belgium, even if they are international companies, are not always that accessible for our international students. So we developed a system that we have a project, a business project, consulting project for these students, but it is like sector, it's industry related. And there we work now together with our alumni, our alumni of the university that work in different sectors. And those sectors are then integrated in an international project for our students.
Thank you. I think you also have other dimension, because I remember a discussion with your dean of the business school, and he was telling me about a lot of action you were doing in your faculty, consulting with companies in Belgium, in the Netherlands, in all of the, well, all around you, but since you are at the border between two countries, it's easier to actually communicate with other countries, and helping companies in different consulting projects, and that a lot of your faculty were involved in this kind of project, and it was a real strength of your institution as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That is something that is also very visible at the university, and not only at our faculty, but in all faculties. Yes.
And there is one particularity, and I'm sorry, it might be really particular, and it's a tricky question, Lena, so apologies for that one. But you have the university, and you also have the Antwerp Management School, which is really close partners of yours. But you're two separate institutions. How do you work jointly on internationalization?
So let's call it separate but together. Huh? So if we look back at history, the Faculty of Business and Economics, until 2008, the Antwerp Management School, it was called differently by then. Back then, but the Antwerp Management School was part of the Faculty of Business and Economics. And in 2008, they became separate. So we, as the Faculty of Business and Economics, we are part of the University of Antwerp, and we are a public university. So we are a government university. The Antwerp Management School became independent as from 2000, to be exact, October 2008. And they are an independent university. So how are we still related? So when they became independent, there was a very clear, let's say, very clear message, was very well prepared and discussed, is that the University of Antwerp will deliver bachelor, initial masters, and PhD programs. And the management school will deliver the advanced masters, the executive master programs, executive programs, company-specific programs, and they also have an executive PhD program that is, let's say, embedded in the PhD program of our University of Antwerp.
So your international partners are the same? Did you have, like, are you doing it as a joint venture, or they're completely independent and you're completely independent to find partners?
We are completely independent, but of course we work together. And here again, we are a research university. So most of our partners, we also have others, but most of our partners are research-based universities. And for the management school, that is different. They work with a lot of other purely management schools. But we work together with quite some partners. And towards the future, when we go out to look at the faculty, to look for new partners, we always have Antwerp Management School in mind. So also to come back with the Antwerp Management School, many professors that teach there also teach at the University of Antwerp. So there is a very nice collaboration on research, but also on teaching.
So a question from John, which is actually linked to that, is how do you get academic colleagues to engage with internationalization? And if you have in mind the issue of workload.
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
How do you get academic colleagues to engage with internationalization? And also with all of the issue of their workload, because it might take some time of research, of teaching. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I have to say that there is not immediately an issue there. It's very clear planned, and let's say that it grows organically. So people who are interested really get into, let's say, those programs, get into those projects. So and how, yeah, everybody has a serious workload, but I would not say that it is an issue. It is, yeah, we don't have an issue.
Okay. Thank you. So how do you, another question from Amizan is, how do you integrate the international dimension into the school governance strategy and culture, as well as into research? And how do you demonstrate the evidence for this? based on outcome and output?
Now I'm thinking. So yeah, the how do we the output? Yes, okay. It's I try to find an example. Is of working together like with universities, where we see that our faculty also collaborates, where our faculty does joint research with, where we see where we partners, where we have PhD and researchers that work together. And of course, there is output. Huh? So you have output, and that shows for, and that is then not only for us, but that is then in combination with the international partnerships.
Yeah, thank you, Lena. If I may just add an example from one of your, I don't know if they're a partner, but a school that is not too far from you, which is University of Rotterdam, Erasmus, and Rotterdam School of Management. Something that they did when they were thinking about output and how to, and it was more in how to find partners. They used data of rankings and ratings, and they said, look, we need to find schools that are maybe ranked as we are. That's one thing, but we also need to look at different dimensions. So they looked at dimension, for example, in research. And what they did is they used research and said, look, we want to find schools that are publishing in the same journal as we are, because already our faculty have something in common. They have the same journal and we have the same rate of publication. So there is also different ways of how to find partners and how to use the outcome and the output to find new partners is really interesting. And there's tons of examples of how schools have done it. It's really interesting.
Yeah, but for us to pick up on that is, like, for instance, if we look at the rankings, so we pay special attention to the ranking, the Shanghai ranking, because that ranking really looks into research. So for us, that is important. And then, of course, when we look at let's say, future partnerships, we really also look at partners that are doing much better than us. So that's why we also make that quick scan to see, that's interesting for us. Let's see how we can, and if they are willing to collaborate, and if we can show what we have done already and what we actually are working on, so that then we can have a chance. So we can have a chance of working together. That doesn't mean that partners that are, let's say, less ranked than we are, that we don't have eye for them. We really look at them. So we look, what are the possibilities, the collaboration opportunities that we can do together.
But you have an advantage because you are, I think, the biggest or the second biggest university in the Netherlands, in Belgium, sorry. But you are a big institution, so you're well known. How would you do if you were a small institution? Because I think a lot of people that are listening to us are coming from smaller institutions, not as visible as you are. So if they go and knock at the door of schools, they might not know who they are.
Not exactly. If we look at, in fact, at the consortia we are in, and consortia we are actually working on, what you see is in consortia you always have strong players, and then you have players that really are growing. So there are opportunities. So there are opportunities. And then we work with smaller partners, and if we see, like, if there is a serious collaboration between faculty, and I know, I really know where you're going to, and I also remember the webinar of last week of Julie, so that she said that they did it in the past and that they purely looked at accreditation and rankings. We are not purely looking at that. So, but you can see also we mapped that, and we started mapping it in 2016. And so we are now in 2020, we go to 2021. We see evolution in things, and we really see what's going on. So there's something we follow it. So, but it is, we need, there must be, let's say, a common denominator to really work together, to do things together, not to just have more partnerships, but really to do things together, to grow together.
Thank you. I have a question from Lydia. In a school with a diverse portfolio of programs, partnership possibilities are usually program related. How do you consolidate program level internationalization strategy and an institutional strategy?
So with the programs, and is it, are you also referring to a dual degree or just to no?
There is a longer question. I'll read you everything. Often partnerships focus of different disciplines and programs are not overlapping. So do you allow for program focused strategy and do you support them?
Well, it's so that we are actually, for a particular project, we are looking into, let's say, the not changing, but really seriously looking into when there are overlaps to see how we can. I'm just going to give an example. We are in the midst of like working for a dual degree, and there what we see is, so there is a partner that has a program, we have a program, and then how will we bring that together as a dual degree? And there we will, but that's of course not that's not up to me. So that is the Education Commission is looking over that to see how that can be changed for internationalization purposes. But that is something, yeah, we are looking at. So yes. And
so again, we're really focused on let's say the partnership aspect. But as Michael questioned earlier, like we're really seeing internationalization as something transversal. And would you maybe be able to not explain each of them, but explain the main area that exists and how do you treat them? Because again, since you're going in your EQUIS process, you might have some good tips of how you did it. You looked at EQUIS, what you did in your institution, the gap analysis that maybe you run into your institution to see your strength, your weakness, and look at all of these different aspects of internationalization outside of purely partnership. Lena?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. No, I'm just thinking how to bring that up, because that is I did not prepare exactly for that. So that is. But if you look at transferal, okay. So you are looking at the companies. We are really working on that right now. But a clear answer on the question that you just asked, I cannot give that. That is really for our accreditation specialist, who is not with me right now to really answer that question.
Okay, no, it was just to know. Thank you, Lena. So, sorry, we might want to ask the question to Lisbeth and get the vision of Lisbeth on that, and maybe give us her vision on the QAA LinkedIn group for her to see how she's tackling that for your EQUIS process. Thank you. One question is, and we asked that question to all of the different people that spoke in the series so far. What challenge do you face as Director of Internationalization, and how do you overcome them?
Well, the challenge, it's we just are in an unprecedented crisis, and we cannot predict what the new way of working is going to be. But what we see is, and I said that before, like the agility that we have, also the how fast we can adapt and adopt to new technologies to really fulfill what we need to do and to still keep up the quality. It's not evident, but it is for sure something that we have to share, and that's what we do. We contact not only people within the university, but also we contact partners to share the way they will do things. We follow a lot of webinars, and we also we experiment. We try to find a way because it's a way, and there will be a better way because we have to, and also because the time is ripe for it. So we have to manage all those different aspects of possibilities, and there are many people who are experimenting, and from that experiment, when they share their way of for internationalization, we listen and we try what we also can, let's say, adopt of those best practices.
You mentioned your director of quality and accreditation. How do you work together on this process? Because you're in internationalization, she is in accreditation. So how do you join force in order to make sure that she has a good vision of what is the accreditation body is going to ask, you have a good vision of your internationalization strategy? How do you combine the two?
Well, we communicate a lot. So not only during let's say the time that we are at the accreditation conferences, but we communicate very regularly. So also that whole team of the Commission of International Relations, we meet once every 3 months, but then as a team, we meet each other. We have like an international gather, and now we do it also by Zoom. So one Friday every month. So to see where people are working on what people are working with on an international level. And certainly now all the questions there are, all the, let's say, the possibilities, other ways of working. So in all domains. So, and that is also where the person of accreditation is also involved, and where she picks up a lot of information, and then we talk about it freely, and then when we put it in processes, she of course is involved in all those processes too.
And so we spoke earlier about your evaluation for finding the right partner for you guys. There is a lot of modification on the accreditation standards at the moment. Both ASCSB and EQUIS are evolving their standards to be staying on top of the needs of the market. How do you embed those modifications? Because so your accreditation manager tell you in these meetings, look, there is some modification. So do you reevaluate completely your evaluation, or how does that work? For you to be sure that you're aware of the modification change.
So we will modify. It's something. It's a growing process. So it's an ongoing process. So it's not because it's set. So we can bring that up, and we can also make a point of it at the Commission of International Relations, and then adapt or change things that are necessary. We look into it. So that's, but it's a very, let's say, a flexible and open process.
Thank you. One question, and maybe you don't have the answer, but I'll ask it because I think it might be really interesting. So Amizan is asking for smaller institution in a less attractive location. Maybe she doesn't know Antwerp, because I'm just kidding. Surrounded by strong competitors, how do you build and maintain and ensure the international attractiveness of your school, that they are able to select their partner rather than being selected? So, you know, this question of appearing on the map and being able to select the one that you want instead of people selecting you. Okay,
so what we have developed also is like what we call a fact sheet. It is a fact sheet where we put our, let's say, most of the things that I talked about today are on that fact sheet. It's a fact sheet of 4 pages. So it very clearly shows who we are, what we want to do, what our international collaboration opportunities and also our ambition is. And then when you know also, you of course have your strengths. So you have to put, for us, the strengths are our accreditations, our rankings. A smaller school will have other strengths. You have to put in, you know, you have to develop your own fact sheet, your own, let's say, quick scan, so that you can really show what your strengths are, and then work with that. When we prepare and we seriously prepare for new partnerships, we really, let's say, we map it and we put, let's say, our strengths very clearly on paper. We ask them for a meeting, and it's surprising, but we get a meeting because we really very strongly show what we stand for, what we are, and what we have, and what we want to do towards the future. And it helps. So, of course, we have an advantage, but we had to also start somewhere. Eh? So, you really have to market yourself to really show what your strengths are, and certainly what your aspirations are. Huh?
Well, thank you, Lena. It's 2 p.m., so that's the end of our webinar today. Thank you so much for your time. We are looking forward to the next webinar next Monday on how to write an accreditation report with Isabelle Fagnot and Geraldine Meckler-Franklin. Thank you, Lena, for your time. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe and speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.